Before our regular agenda, we have a public hearing on the NBD Solar Project off of Old South Road, MSP number 21-001. Well, I see Sean Toby's here, and Christian Loranger. One of you is going to make a presentation, a brief presentation. That'd be great, just to set the stage, and then we'll open it up for comments or questions from the public and comments or questions from the board. And so with that, I'll open the public hearing at 6:34, I guess, and ask one of you guys to make a brief presentation of the project.
Bill, someone's got their TV on in the background.
Oh, is there a way to, Amy, can you mute people involuntarily?
I have been. I'm not sure who it is.
Yeah. Can you make sure that everybody that's listening in is got the mute button on, or so that there's no background? Okay. Okay. Sean, want to have it at, or Christian?
Yeah. Good evening, Mr. Chair. My other meeting actually wrapped up, so I wasn't able to get in here tonight. And I'll introduce Christian Loranger. He's the owner of NBD Solar. I can kind of turn it over to him, give an overview of maybe the solar part of it and go through some stuff, and then we can get into technical data if that's needed.
Okay. I'm sorry, just for everybody's benefit, where this project is we've gone through a couple of reviews and found the application to be complete and are moving it forward through the process, and the public hearing is the next piece of this. So sorry to interrupt again, but go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Christian Loranger, and thank you for taking the time to look at our project this evening. I'll keep it as a short overview, and then I can open it up to questions, and that may be more useful if that's what you'd like me to do. So what we're proposing is a 4.99 megawatt AC ground-mounted solar project on 15B Old South Road. This will be a fixed mount ground-mounted solar project where we use ground screws, 4 ground screws per table to hold 25 panels. These panels will be in a row. We use a 3-inch ground screw, approximately 6 feet into the ground. And we use 4 of them to hold the table up. With all of the tables on the site, we're penetrating the ground with less than 2,500 square feet. So it's a very small footprint on the ground. One of the things that I like to say is that the solar project is basically a placeholder for this property. If I put in a foundation for a large building, that building's going to be there forever. What we do with these solar projects is we put in a minimal amount of screws. We do put in some underground conduit to tie all the electrical back to the inverters and transformers. But these screws that are in the ground can be removed easily at the end of the useful life for this project. We will also be posting a bond with a cost of living increase on that bond, so that if anything were to happen to the project or to the owner, the town would have the money to remove the project at the end of its useful life. And any other further use for that property would of course have to come in front of the planning board. So I don't see anything else coming out that's better than solar in the near future. So this project will be running at a minimum of 25 years, but it's nice to know that at the end of that 25 years, if the project were removed, the ground would be back to its original state, and the planning board would have its opinion as to what happened to the property after that. With that, I'd like to open it up to questions and any that you've got.
Okay, we'll run questions through me as chair.
Sure.
Can Sean or Chris, can you put up a quick site plan just to get our bearings here for those that haven't watched it before? Is that possible?
Yes.
Sean's able to do that.
Yep. So I probably should have explained a little bit just because we did kind of go through in the first meeting, but
yeah, but for
so
those that
this
might be
is-
new to it, yeah, thank you.
yeah, yep. 236 running north and south, 91 headed off to York in this direction. This red outline is the property itself that comprises 15B Old South. As you can see, this is mostly marsh over here, so none of this area will be developed. There's a small stream that connects, and then there's wetlands on the western side of the property as well. So following this kind of overview into the plan set, sorry for that. So as you can see, this is that site with kind of the bold line going around is the property, the marsh we talked about. And then this here, these would be the solar panels with the access Old South Road over here. Then as you can see, as Christian mentioned, each one of these is a table that holds 25 individual solar panels. Access would be up here in the northern corner off of Old South Road. And it would just be to get into the site to access the electrical equipment. And then everything else would just remain grass under the panels with a security perimeter fence around the outside.
Okay,
It should also be stated that we mow twice a year. We do not use any herbicides or pesticides on the site at all. And we do not clean our panels here in the Northeast. We let the rain take care of that, so there's no cleaners or any chemicals at all on the site. We also leave the perimeter fence up around 6 to 8 inches off the ground to allow animals to come and go through the project.
thank you. Okay, with that, I'll take any questions or comments about the project. If you have one, speak and raise your hand. Let me know who you are and where you live. Pat Robinson, I see.
Thank you, Pat Robinson. I live over on Brattle Street, and my concern is that Sean Toby has said that.
That's background noise, Pat. Just ignore it. You're muted now.
Sorry,
There you go.
my cursor hit it. My concern is that I've been told that, and it was mentioned at the last planning board meeting that there's going to be mitigation land. There's 26 acres being purchased off of Great Hill Road, and only 9.5 acres will be used as conservation, and it'll be deeded conservation. I don't trust that that can be a permanent conservation, and it's owned by the developer, and I don't. What happens if the developer sells the land? I think that could be pretty easy for someone to perhaps kind of let that slip off the deed. And does the developer own the whole 26 acres or the 9 acres or? And then I also could not find on the tax maps any 26 acres undeveloped on Great Hill Road.
Sean, do you have a?
Yeah, so I could just give you an update on that. So after our initial coordination with IF&W, as we mentioned in the last meeting, because of some of the impacts, they had asked us to find 8+ acres to put in conservation as an offset for any impacts with this project. We quickly found a piece that was available up in the northern part of South Berwick and sent that to IF&W for review to see if it was suitable turtle habitat. They actually just got back to us today and said that that parcel didn't meet the turtle habitat. But they put us in contact or told us to get into contact with the Great Works Regional Land Trust, and that there are parcels available that could be acquired as part of that to either purchase that and set that aside with the land trust itself for the mitigation efforts. So I apologize kind of for the delay in that. We were waiting for IF&W to review it. But we will definitely reach out tomorrow and make sure that is squared away before anything breaks ground.
And when you say contact Great Works Regional Land Trust, I am on the board of directors of the land trust, and it sounds like you would want to buy land from the land trust because
It would be buying additional land surrounding the land trust and adding it into that. Steve Walker from the state wrote to us today and referenced a few parcels that could be available.
Okay, well, you do need to talk to the land trust. I mean.
Yes, we will do that next step.
Because I really don't trust the deed that it's permanent conservation, and 9 acres, even for turtles, is not very much.
Yeah, and we'd be more than happy to work with you and the land trust and IF&W to get whatever language, ownership, whatever is needed to make that work. We'll want to go through the right channels.
Pat, if I may, we'll make sure that you're satisfied with that this is a permanent, that this is permanently done and that there's no way that this can be changed in the future.
Can I ask, I seem to remember there was something about 8 times the amount when you mitigate, and it was going to be a 26-acre parcel for that reason. So we're talking about 8 or 26 or more or something else?
Well,
Or did I
the
get that
initial
wrong?
parcel that we had found was 26, and Christian was willing to just put all of the 26 in there
okay.
to make sure that we had it. But depending on what we find now, we'll make sure it meets the full amount that's required. Maybe it's 10 acres, 12 acres. It's going to be what we find, I guess.
Okay.
But we'll get that squared away as soon as we can.
I have one more question.
Yeah,
Yes.
Pat, go ahead.
And when you say working with Great Works, you will perhaps buy land to donate to the land trust?
That's correct.
Yes.
All right.
Barbara Hopkins.
Thank you. I just wanted some clarity.
Barbara, I know where you live, but you have to tell everybody
Oh,
else.
I'm sorry. I live on Bonds Plain. I know you know where I live. I remember at the very first part of this that there's a buffer. When you showed that map before, it looks like the panels are right up to the edge of the property line. So is the buffer inside the fence? Is the buffer outside the fence and the fence is up close to the panels? What's that situation there?
Yeah, so all the panels are treated as if they're a building. So there's a building setback or buffer from all the property lines.
And that's 25 feet? That's 25?
Yes.
feet?
Yes, 25 feet all the way around the piece. So all those panels are kept 25 feet off the property line. And then the fence itself is 15 feet off those panels. So the fence isn't
10 feet. So the fence is 10 feet from the property line.
in
That's
certain
correct.
places, correct, yes.
Okay, okay, all right,
That's as close as it would be, Ms. Hopkins.
okay. All right.
And then in areas where there's visibility from existing houses, that 10 feet, or if there's additional area, that'll be heavily planted with double rows of spruce trees to block the view of the fence or the panels from the abutting residences that have a view.
And then you mentioned that the fence is going to be 12 inches off the ground. Is that what it was? 12 inches off the ground? How far off the ground?
Typically 6 inches, and that'll allow for small animals like rabbits, turtles, to go in and out from underneath that project.
And how tall is the fence?
7 feet.
7 feet. All right, so that'll deter any deer getting in there. That was the concern I had because there were a lot of deer groups that are in that area.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
I see a hand of Nancy Pfaff.
Yes, I live on Fife's Lane. I'm one of the abutters. My first question is, how many panels in all are we talking about?
Yep, let me just get you that exact number here. It would be 11,760 individual modules.
Is it possible for me to get a copy of the site map? Since my property abuts your project, it's hard for me to tell on the computer here exactly where your property ends and mine begins.
Yep, no, I believe all the plans that we had shared are right on the town website. And, we could work with getting that link to you, but everything that's been submitted to the town, I believe, is on the website.
I agree. I know it's on the website. It's hard to see and then compare to where the end of my backyard is and your project begins. And from the map on the computer.
All right, so I can pull up, I see which one is yours.
Now, I want a piece of paper.
Nope.
Nancy,
We could highlight your property and put that on a plan.
and we have
Okay.
the plans here in the office, so you're welcome to come here and grab a copy of that.
Thank you. Also, who is going to buy this electricity you're going to generate?
So we have an agreement with Central Maine Power. So Central Maine Power has a distributed generation program. So the power will be going into the distributed grid of Central Maine Power.
Thank you.
Okay. I see,
So-
Ms. Burns.
Yes, I live at 15A Old South Road, so I am a butter as well. And I just had a concern on like the number, we already talked about the number of panels. And they also talked about the acreage out there. Now, the only acreage that I could find that was registered on the deeds was for 24.32 acres. And they're talking 30 acres in the past meetings. And I was just wondering, how many acres are they really working with? I know the land was surveyed most recently, so I'd like to know how many acres they're talking about.
Sean?
Yeah, so between the deed of the parcel and the actual on the ground acreage, there is a discrepancy. It's on the western part, on the opposite side from where your house is located. Based on the plans available and what was found for monumentation on the ground, it's coming in around 30 acres. But the project itself is under 20 acres of disturbance. I'm just looking at the total footprint. Total footprint of the entire project is 17 acres. That includes all the clearing.
Okay. And then my next concern, of course, is the noise. I know you guys talk decimal wise and stuff, which that really means absolutely nothing to me. So I'm just wondering where I am going to be in a butter, where I am in a butter. I'm just wondering my pool, my backyard, everything is right up close to that. And I'm just a little concerned, in the middle of the daytime, how noisy is that going to be? Is it noisy at night? I know you said at the higher times. And where is the panel and stuff going to be that we would be hearing stuff from?
Yeah, so let me, I can share my screen again, just so you can see where that is. And then, so this house would be yours with the pool garage here. These two boxes here would be the inverters that convert the power and then send it back into the grid. So these are set at a distance far enough away from the property line, so that the decimals at this line during peak hours, so that's when the sun is fully churning, running through those, it's about as loud, probably a little less than an air conditioner in a typical house residence. And that would be set very far back. And then as soon as the sun starts to go down, the power drops. They cut off once the sun goes down. So there's no noise at night. And then at the maximum, it would be as if your neighbor was running an air conditioning unit during the peak hour.
Okay, so we would actually be able to hear that air conditioning
If you
sound
were
with-
standing right at the property line, you might hear it. By the time you get over, it's below the allowed limit. So it'd be very, very minimal.
Okay, and now you had said that you're going to put trees up. Now, would trees be on that side? Is that where you would put some trees up to help with the noise?
Yes, correct. So right now in this portion, it's fairly wooded right in through here between your property, and all that woods would stay.
Okay,
It's there now. And then there's a portion looking down Old South where you would kind of see, and all these are proposed 6-foot spruce trees. So they would be
Okay.
green. So, and this, you can kind of see, that's that existing stand of trees right here.
mhm,
And then this portion would be infilled with those thick evergreens. So year round in this section, you wouldn't see any of those panels. It would screen this whole entrance.
okay, so you would start with mature trees then, all the way
Yes,
around?
all these trees in this area that exist today, right in here, these will all stay. Those won't be touched.
Okay, now what about the house just above it?
Up in
That
the- yeah.
house there. Now, will the noise be affected in that area? A little
No,
bit more where they're up higher?
no, it's based primarily on the distance. The further you get away from that noise, the further the sound drops. And then as well with this thick row of trees, we didn't even include the rows of trees in our sound calculations.
Mhm.
But once you add that barrier, that reduces it almost down to nothing on the backside.
Ms.
Okay.
Burns, the panels themselves make absolutely no noise, Ms. Burns.
Right.
It's the inverter location where the air conditioner sound would be coming from.
Okay, and that was my concern because that is closer to my land. That's why I was concerned about that.
Yep.
And my next, my other question about the fence, okay? Will there ever be a complete fence going right down the right of way?
No, ma'am.
No, nope.
Okay, and speaking of the right of way, it says that you will maintain that. When you say that you'll maintain that, what does that consist of? Like, because we have winter and where the road needs to be plowed and everything like that. And both my husband and I have to work. We are essential personnel, so we do need to get out. So what would you guys be doing in the winter for us for maintaining that?
So two things. One, once the project is built, everything is done remote control now. Everything is monitored remote control, really right down to the panel. So unless there's a problem, there's really no one going out there other than regular maintenance, which would be once every 2 months. However, when there is snow, we do like to have it plowed to the gate and into the transformers. So we would stay ahead of the snow plowing. So that would be done. We would need that road to be opened. The only issue is that our need to get the road plowed will not be the same as you with it being an essential personnel. We kind of come at the end of the line.
Yeah.
We don't need to be out there that day that it snows. So we would be opening it up. So I'd be happy to talk to you. Cost sharing or something of that nature would be fine. If we could just help you maintain the portion that you're plowing, and then we can take care of plowing from your driveway the rest of the way in, so that you're not taking the brunt of the entire road from your driveway out, which would not be fair.
Okay, and I know.
And I'd be happy to do that with you. And I'll take your name down, and I'll have my general manager, Sean Meehan, reach out to you.
Okay,
And we can get a discussion going on what that would take.
okay, because that's a big concern of ours.
Yeah, and I don't expect
maintain.
you to pay for our snow plowing to come into the gate.
Okay, okay.
So
And I-
who
Oh,
owns
go
the fee in that road?
Who owns what? Excuse me?
Who owns the land underneath the road?
Well, it's deeded as in the right of way is in their deed. The one that's purchasing this land. Which.
Yeah, so
in
the solar
deed-
project parcel owns the road strip that goes back to Old South, and then the other lots accessing it have easements.
I
So-
see. And how many people have easements on there?
There's two of us, myself and the other neighbors that abut exactly where the entrance is for this land, and then the solar.
And the other land that abuts it, does that have easements? Or can there be no more people that will have easements on that?
Yeah, there's any of the land around it already has a driveway, either back directly to Old South. There's no other options for adding driveways that I can see.
I don't believe that any other land can be sold out in that way. There's only us and one other family that has the easement. So,
Ms. Burns, do you split the cost now with the other owner?
we do. We actually pretty much maintain it ourselves, and we split it with the owners. of the other
Okay,
land.
we're happy to join in on that.
Okay. And I think that was all I had for questions. Thank you.
I see a hand up of Andrew Storts.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Hi, I'm Andrew Storts, and I live at 15 Old South Road. I am the other abutting neighbor. And I guess my first concern to bring up is the fact that my house is, if you look at the map, anyone who sees it is probably happy that they don't own this property as this project gets further and further on. But more importantly, what you don't see on the map is that my house is up on a hill, and these trees aren't going to do a lot as far as I can see in terms of blocking my sight lines to just seeing solar panels out of 80% of the windows in my house. They would have to be very tall. So I'm just wondering if are there any alternatives or what can be done, I guess, to make a tree grow faster?
John, can you pull that map up, please?
Yes. So Andrew, I believe your house, you said was this, you're this
Yes.
one here, correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, the closest. Yep.
Can you pull it up with the panels, Sean?
Yeah, so right there.
There we go. Okay. Well, I guess a couple things we could do. You're on the north side of the project, which is the best place that you could possibly be. So I would be, the last thing I want to do is come in and blow anybody up. If it's something that, if you wanted us to come up on your property and plant some taller trees before the drop off happens, before the roll of the hill, etc., I'd be happy to do something like that for you. We could come and take a look, and you and I could kind of discuss, what we could do on your property to kind of screen it out with some tall evergreens. I don't mind planting trees at all. We have a large farm down in Pennsylvania that we get all of our trees from. There's Techni arborvitaes. They grow like weeds, and they grow super tall. You're on the north side, so you're not going to cause me any shading issues. So I'm happy to, I can plant what I can on my property, but like you're saying, the elevations are different. If you want me to go up onto your property, I'm happy to plant trees up there as well, sir.
Okay. Yeah, that would be great if you or someone could come out and we could kind of go through that stuff. In person.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Another concern I have after poking around and doing some reading is just about how these sorts of projects can affect property values. And I think that I couldn't be more affected potentially than the proximity of this project to where all my land is. I read that there was a study saying it can take away up to 5% of your home's value. And if that's an average, I'd be willing to bet that it could affect me greater. Do you have any data about that?
I do, Andrew. So good question. And I get this a lot. Let me give you two answers. Number one, I did a project down in Massachusetts, and I owned the property on the opposite side of the road. There was no vegetation. I did a solar project on one side of the road in an open farm field. It was an old farm, the entire property on both sides of the road. On the other side of the road, I developed house lots. And the first house across the street from the gate, we sold for $975,000. And it was one of the higher priced homes in town to sell. We also have two letters from two different realtors in the state of Maine that say that there is no deduction from the sales price of a house due to being a neighbor of a solar project. I think if we mitigate the sight lines from your home by planting a vegetative barrier at an elevation that blocks it out, the fact that you're near a solar project is not going to affect the price of your property in any way, shape, or form. As a matter of fact, I kind of look at this as it's a very sleepy neighbor. Again, we have a truck that'll roll through there once every couple months. But other than that, there's nobody out there. So it's a very, very quiet and peaceful neighbor.
Okay.
And we'd be happy to furnish that letter for you if you'd like to see it.
Sure.
Sean, I don't know if you have that, Sean, or not.
Yeah, I know we have a copy from another one, so we could dig that up.
Okay. Andrew, we'll furnish that to the town. And
Okay.
and if you can check in with them, we'll have that to the town tomorrow.
Thank you.
And we'll reach out to you. I'll reach out to you through the town. I'm gonna have Sean Meehan come out and pay you a visit as well.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
Thank you, sir.
And I guess one more comment that I have just directed towards the board, some food for thought. I was also reading about how in upstate New York this year, they just passed a 6-month moratorium on any solar projects because of the frequency that they've been coming up lately. And I think that we can all see that this is probably going to be happening in areas like this with open forested land and farmland and stuff that could be, a physically good match for this sort of solar project. And there were just so many coming up in these smaller towns that they said no more in the entire state because they wanted to learn more about it. So they put a 6-month moratorium on it. And it just seems like it would be good if we could put some thought into this before it becomes a problem where we're just being boxed in by solar panels all over the place. Since the last meeting 2 weeks ago, I've gotten 4 letters from CMP trying to get me to sign up for the solar energy program. Which on the surface obviously sounds like a great thing, but it's pretty clear to me that this is going to be happening more and more, and I would hate for any sort of zoning or stuff that could happen in the future to wait until we have a few things like this that are really just smack dab in the center of residential area before we're really considering zoning and stuff. But for what it's worth, that's all I got. So thank you.
Here, Andrew. We do have a lot of activity in this field right now. Other questions or comments? Ms. Burns again.
Sorry. I just have a question on the length of time when they would start this project and how long it would actually take them to finish. I'm just concerned of the traffic going by, how long, how busy it would be and for how long, a length of time.
Yes, so it takes us about 3.5 to 4 months to build and finish a project. We receive trucks kind of in a, it's not evenly spaced out. So for like the steel for the racking will come over a period of 5 days. So trucks will come in, we'll empty them out, maybe 4 to 5 trucks a day. And then they'll be gone, and they'll be gone for a while. Other than that, it's really just worker transportation, which is usually in vans. So 2 or 3 vans would come in. And then when the panels arrive, we'll have those trucks as well. But other than that, there's not a lot of coming and going.
Okay, with the vehicles coming and going, part of the, we've paved up to our house, but beyond that, we have our business, our shop, and the rest of our land. And I know when they were taking the trees down a few years ago, the dust was incredible.
Right. So
is there any way that
we stone that right out of the gate, Ms. Burns?
okay?
So we would stone that road, and that's on our plan as well. I don't know if it goes all the way to your pavement, but I would stone it all the way to the pavement, as I don't want to be dragging mud and things like that out on the road. So we would stone it immediately from the end of your pavement all the way into our project.
Okay. I guess that's all I have. Just one other question. Last meeting, we had talked about the measurements from the wetlands. And is it 250 feet that they were talking about because of the waterfowl and everything that's happening around this area? How far from the wetlands do you go back? I couldn't see it really on the map.
Yeah, so from that marsh, IF&W has recommended a 250-foot buffer for
Okay.
any, for the waterfowl, for the turtles. And as discussed, because a portion of that has been cleared and disturbed already.
Yeah.
That was kind of why we had used some of that area. And then that's what's leading to this additional land purchase for the offset of any of those impacts.
So Sean, could you put up the graphic to show what that is?
Yeah.
I remember we explained that last time, but
Yep, no, I can share that again. So yeah, so this line kind of through here is the 250-foot offset. And we have proposed a 150-foot no disturbance. And then this area in here is where we would have some minimal impacts. And this yellow area is the portion that's already been cleared. So aside from just installing the panels on top of this, we won't have any future disturbance. These areas will have some hand tree clearing for the panels. So it's
Okay.
not, it's
Okay.
not a full disturbance, whereas we're paving it, cutting it to the ground and totally destroying that habitat because it's still grass. There's a fence that's elevated, there's shading. The turtles can still come and go. But we're still, again, providing that additional area as offset mitigation.
So, David, could you weigh in here for a sec? So, but there is this 250-foot setback.
Yes.
But you've decided you're not going to do it. Is that, do I not understand?
Well, that's just in regards to the wildlife. From the town's perspective of development, you can go up to 100 feet.
Okay. But there is wildlife, right? So if there's a 250-foot setback and actually, we've identified that there's Blanding's turtles or whatever else, don't we want that 250-foot setback?
Well, I mean, that's a recommendation that IF&W will put on a general situation where we've talked and discussed that with them and where this is already a spot that's been disturbed. They are open to the idea of letting us mitigate off-site. So usually, so it'll meet their recommendation, working through this process.
And David, is it our call or do they get to make the call?
That's an IF&W call.
It is. Okay. Sorry. I'm not trying to be contentious. I just really want to understand how it
No,
works.
and
Thanks.
that's understandable. And, based on our meeting with IF&W earlier, they've agreed to that. And until we get final sign off from IF&W, we can't really go forward with the stormwater permit. So they are really going to oversee all this, and they're very strict about making sure everything is in place before the project moves to the next steps.
Going back a bit and relatedly, we started with this, in order for them to be, to go ahead with this, the mitigation deal has to be done.
Yeah, we need to get something squared away before we can submit the stormwater PBR. We need documentation from IF&W that they are satisfied because there is wildlife in that marsh.
Right.
So
So the mitigation that you were talking about, that needs to happen before the project can move forward. Is that right?
correct, yes.
Before we can start construction, yes, sir.
That's either in legal agreements or something that will stand up. It doesn't necessarily have to be completely consummated, I suppose, but it has to have commitments made and the agreements made.
Correct, yes.
Okay, thank you.
If I may just jump in on, just to throw one more thing in there. I just did a quick count of the panels that are in that disturbed area. And we basically have, I think I counted roughly 16 complete tables, which would be 64 3-inch screws penetrating the ground in that area. I'm on a solar farm site every day doing construction, and the animals are always within the fence. There are always animals within. So it's kind of a protected area going forward for the entire time that the solar project is in place. We have the room under the fence for them. We're only putting in 64 screws in that area into the ground. And other than that, it's a nice grassy protected area where there isn't a lot of commotion. I just wanted to put that in there.
Nancy Pfaff again?
I'm reiterating a question from my neighbor Troy Osborne. What is the setback from the stream? There is a brook that runs through the property. I believe it's on the developer's property, and I'm not sure how the setback's going to work in that area.
Yes, no, that's a good question. So the brook that runs through there has a 75-foot DEP jurisdictional buffer, and we are not impacting that 75-foot buffer at all along that stream.
On either side or just on your side?
On either side. The brook itself kind of follows the property line, then it meanders onto the abutters and then back onto our property. But nowhere along that brook will we be inside the 75-foot buffer.
So there won't be any fence until 75 feet, is that correct?
The fence will be even further back. There, the
Okay.
clearing will be up to the 75, but there's probably 35 or 50 feet before the fence starts.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, good. Anybody else? Arthur Graves. You're muted, Arthur. No, you're still muted. No, you're still muted. Can't hear you. You're muted, Arthur. Yeah, you gotta find out the button there. Yeah.
All right, how about now?
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
Perfect.
All right. So I'm Arthur Graves, 13 Old South Road. I abut the right of way, if you will, with Vicky and Joe. You know, I've been here for almost 40 years with Vicky and Joe and family and the whole thing. I think the biggest question I have is what kind of guarantee, what kind of a written word are we going to get that there'll be no fence or no trees running down along the line? I mean, we mow the lawn and we take care of the right of way, and we make the whole area look so nice and peaceful going into that that zone. I think the question is this anything going to be in writing that states that you will not disturb what's there now going into your work zone area?
Well,
Yeah, I mean, I
Arthur,
think,
go ahead, Sean.
yeah, going forward, I mean, there's no intent to put any fence there, so we could hatch that area and make a note on the plans that there'll be no fence or disturbance in that area. And we could also add a note that if, you know, a truck makes a tire rut, that it'll be repaired to the existing condition. And that could be on the plan that becomes recorded with the approval, so that if something did happen to it, but
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going with this, because we had trucks do the damage before when they were logging it. And it made a lot of work for us to try to clean it up and make it back looking the way it is. I'm sure you appreciate the fact that we take care of it and we keep it looking nice, and it would look really nice going in and stayed that way as long as we're pretty well assured that we're not going to have any trees planted to separate or mark out a specific type of right of way thing.
No,
I think
absolutely
that
not.
could be go ahead, Christian.
Are you,
Oh, I was gonna say, absolutely not, Mr. Graves. We have our fence on the plan, and the plan is what we have to build to. We have a gate at the end of the road down on our property. There is nothing, we have nothing to do with the entryway at all. It serves me no purpose. If you want to look at it from that point of view, it serves me no purpose to do any work on the entrance road as far as planting trees or putting any fencing or anything of that nature.
All right, I appreciate that. I'm sure the Burns do too, and Andrew. That's great. So you are saying that you'll have it in writing that this will happen and you will take care of all damage done to the right of way so it'll look nice when you leave?
Sean will put that on the plan, sir.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much, guys.
Okay. All right, good. Any other questions or comments?
Jessica Sear has her virtual hand raised.
Where's that? Jessica Sear?
Hey
Yeah.
there, guys. Jessica Sear at 37 Academy Street. I am a huge fan of community solar. I think that what they've done at Sanford, at the Sanford Airport, to offset the airport costs are fantastic. You know, using a space that's already been cleared is good planning. My concern, sitting kind of in a lot in town, is we've had like coyotes and fishers and other predators move in because I think their space is being limited. So I'm like, kudos for the fence being raised 6 inches or anything, but if there's any way to kind of increase that space so more animals can come in, I get that deer would probably wreak havoc on your panels, but that's my concern, is that we're really going to start limiting spaces if we continue to take, 26, 30 acres at a time for community solar. So I just wanted to express that. I would appreciate your time.
Jessica, I thank you for the question. It's an excellent statement and question. But again, I'm on these sites all the time. The turkeys, We do have Fisher cats in the projects at night. We do actually have deer in the sites as well. I'm told that they can go under the fence when we raise it 6 inches, that they are able to get in there. Other people are telling me that they jump over the fence, but there is never a lack of wildlife within the solar perimeter at all, it doesn't seem. So I don't think it will be limiting. I don't think necessarily with that 6 to 8 inch gap under the fence that will be limiting the wildlife any different than any of the other solar projects that I've built. I don't think you'll see a limitation at this site as either.
Okay. Questions?
I guess I should also say that the only reason that we don't go up higher is we do have to have, there are limitations. We do want to try and keep people out as we can. So that's the reason for not going higher. I should have included that.
Most of us can't fit under a 6 inch gap, huh?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bill, but when you're 16, if you're looking for a place to go, you can.
That's right.
That's true. Okay, any other comments from the audience or comments of the board? Going once. Oh, Barbara, again.
Barbara Hopkins, Vons Lane. So since you're bringing it up, and we've had teenage activity down near where I live, if somebody does notice something, will the fire department, police department be able to access the gate in case of an emergency?
Yes, Barbara. So what we have is called a Knox box.
Okay, I know what those are. Yep.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So
Thank
there's
you.
a Knox
I just,
box there's a Knox box on the gate.
Okay, super. All right, thank you.
I got a question. Assuming everything lines up, from when you get the final approvals and mitigation things, and all that, what's your general schedule for commencing the work? And I think you said it's a 3 to 4 month process to finish the work.
Yeah. So this would most likely be an August, September project, depending on us finding another suitable piece of property to mitigate.
Okay.
In short order.
Yeah. That's gonna do well. Okay.
Bill?
Yes, Perry Ellsworth, town manager.
Question about the retainage. You said you're going to have are you setting aside a bond, inflatable bond, or are you setting aside cash?
So what we usually do, Mr. Ellsworth, is an irrevocable letter of credit. It seems to be what most of the towns have wanted these days, and that's what we've been doing, sir.
Yeah. Would you be interested in posting a performance bond?
Yes, sir. We do bonds. We do bonds. We do performance bonds as well.
All right.
And
So that's probably what we're going to be looking at, and before you start, we're going to need to negotiate that. So, you'll have to be in contact with my office.
So what we do, Mr. Ellsworth, is we and I'm sure it may be, or you may already have this, and Sean can tell me if I'm wrong. Usually with our application, we put in a detailed breakdown, how many men, how much equipment, how many men and or women, how much equipment for each portion of dismantling every portion of the project, so that you can have a light and a breakdown of every piece, as well as getting rid of the waste, etc. And that's how we and then we put an additional amount onto that to come up with our performance bond number. You can review it, make comments, etc. We usually turn it in with our package. If Sean, do you know if that's part of our package on this? Sean Toby?
Yeah, I believe it was included.
Okay, so it should be in.
I haven't seen it yet, and that's not with the planning board. That's an actual paperwork that we have to do that I have to sign off on. So if you can get it,
I'll make sure you get a copy, sir.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
And if Mr. Stores and Miss Burns, if you don't mind, if you could maybe give the town planner a phone number so that we'd be able to contact you, that would be helpful.
Yeah, I think if you get that to Amy Iger, she can make it available for you.
Yes, yep, just email me your information and I'll get it to him.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Amy can also be the liaison for getting the paperwork together for the decommissioning also.
I will make sure that's done.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? This has been quite a discussion. Ilaria Zinzer.
Hi, Ilaria Zinzer, Back Acres Lane. For whatever it's worth, I would support Andrew Stortz's comment about a moratorium on these kinds of projects moving forward. They seem like a project that we will continue to see more and more of. And, you know, personally, I like a well-appointed town with balance. And, you know, I feel bad for Andrew. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. I guess we're going to close the public hearing if I don't see any other hands go up. Oh, Hershey. You're muted. You're muted, Hershey. You're still muted.
Sorry.
There you go.
I'm going to support Andrew as well. I've been thinking about this idea of a moratorium. We've had another application come in and, you know, I think thinking through this a little bit better would be good.
Okay.
Bill, if I may, in that case, just for information purposes, I can advance that question to the town council to start the process if you send me an email.
Well, we have to discuss it first, but you're right. Okay, yeah. Okay, then I'll close the public hearing at 7:26. And thank you very much. So we'll
Thank you
start
Thank you for your time.
Sure, yeah. And so I'll start the regular meeting. And first with a roll call. We're all here. There's a quorum of 5 members, and I don't think you have to raise your hand because you're all here. So Hershey, myself, Betsy, Jeff Minahan, and Manley Gove. The next issue is we have the minutes of the May 5th meeting, which Amy got to us last day or two. Are there any comments or corrections on the May 5th meeting minutes?
I have to ask, how is it I talk the entire meeting and nothing I say ends up in the minutes? Is it, is it me? Do I imagine that? No, I'm good. I move we accept the minutes.
I'll second it.
Second by moved by Hershey, seconded by Jeff. All in favor?
Aye.
5 hands. 5. Okay, thank you very much. I mean, I think maybe Hershey, you're just so focused that it gets done in a very few words. I don't know.
Sorry if I offended you, Hershey.
It's all good.
Okay. If there are people that want to make reserve time for comments on any of the topics tonight, we'll note that now. Ilaria Zinzer?
Is now the time to talk?
No, well, tell me what you want to talk about. We'll decide. We'll do it.
I just wanted to comment about a butter notification on cultivation, marijuana cultivation,
Okay.
but I can wait or not. whatever.
Go ahead. I'm not sure about a notification when we have a project. We're not talking, oh, you're talking about what we might have in the ordinance, you mean?
Yeah. well,
Okay.
I guess the question just is, you know, I've been delivering signs for Keep Informed South Berwick, and I've been down on Lord's Lane delivering some signs, and I had a family buy like 8 signs, and my sense was that they thought, well, if I buy a lot of signs and we vote this down, there won't be a cultivation facility going in near, my house. And so I kind of was like, oh, these people are confused. And I was able to say, well, even if this gets voted down, on the 8th, you may still have something coming in.
Yeah,
So,
'cause those separate issues.
is there any notification for the folks who live in that area to know about the ordinance being written and the potential?
I'll take just 1 minute on this. The ordinance is not specific to a location. And to the extent that there's an application at a location, that's when a notification kicks in. So this is general, and there would not be a particular property notification associated with the ordinance.
Okay, so even though it's for the I-1, I-2,
There'll be a hearing on it.
but people that live around that area won't get
There'll
notified?
be probably 2 public hearings, our public hearing and the town council's public hearing, and they'll be well advertised. I don't know how notification works.
Okay, well, I appreciate
Yeah.
that you don't know. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So we had a piece of correspondence coming in by email from Ms. Eastman, and that can be, I suppose, entered into with no objection, that can be entered into the record of the public hearing. That's where it belongs. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to suggest that we follow the agenda. Just do it instead of getting cute about it. So that we have 2 new projects that are we have a sketch plan presentations, I think, for both of them. The first one is another solar project on Agamenticus Road. It's been prepared by DM Roma Consulting Engineers for Clean Tap Energy. Is there someone here from that project tonight?
Good evening, Jason Haskell with DM Roma Engineers. How are you?
Good. You want to brief us on what you're presenting us as the first time. This is a sketch plan presentation, right?
Correct.
Okay, cool. Go ahead. The floor is yours, Jason.
All right, thank you very much. Let's see here. Share this one. All right, so this right here is the solar project that we're looking at off of Agamenticus Road.
We're not sharing an image that's meaningful, I don't think. There you go.
Any better?
That's much better.
All right, so yeah, I'm here on behalf of Clean Tap Energy, which is also working under South Berwick Solar LLC. Here with me tonight is Stephen Christie and Will Boyle. So what we're looking at is about a 29-acre parcel. It's currently owned by a Robert Page, and it's identified as lot 17 on tax map 11. It's located in the R1 Village District, and it's located just to the south of the existing South Berwick Water District pump station. It's currently undeveloped land except for an existing driveway that cuts through the middle of the property for access to the property to the rear. The proposals for a 4.99 megawatt solar farm. For permitting purposes, the facility is being defined as an essential services for commercial use, which we understand some of the previous solar farms have been reviewed under. This is an allowed use in the zone. So the project will consist of solar panels, inversion equipment, overhead and underground transmission lines, and the security fencing. There will be no buildings on the property and very little noise outside of the fence. And as with the other project, it'll be maintained as meadow, not being mowed more than twice a year. Access will be through the existing pump station road. The current landowner has an easement over this road to enter the property. That'll be utilized for both the access and for running the extension of the overhead power lines to the inversion equipment. All the electrical runs will be underground within the fence. There's just the additional poles needed outside of the fence. The driveway continues through the property, as I said before, which means that we won't need to be building any additional gravel access roads to access the facility. And as you have also understood, that there's very little traffic congestion post-construction on this, just the random, the scheduled maintenance and routine maintenance that happens with the solar panels themselves. The farm will be located about 1,000 feet from the public right-of-way, so it shouldn't be in public view. We are proposing wooded buffers along the outside of the property, including a wider buffer along, there's an existing trail system that's coming from the school that comes out in this direction. So we'll try to screen that as much as we can as well. There's a small portion of the site that is in the shoreland zone, which is 250 feet from an National Wetland Inventory map wetland. We are going to propose that we are just going to maintain that 250-foot setback and not propose any construction within that area. I guess we're here tonight to discuss any of your concerns with the project and hopefully come back with a complete submission in the future that addresses your comments. And I guess we're here to answer any of your questions. Thank you.
Go ahead, Betsy.
I'm just a little confused about where we are on Agamenticus Road. Is that the parking lot to Powder House or behind that daycare that's beside Powder House? Where
Did you see my
Agamenticus-
screen switch to the Google Earth?
Not yet.
No.
All right, let's change this to.
Yes, it is, Betsy.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
this is the existing South Berwick Water District pump house.
Okay.
And what else we got around here? And then Berwick Academy's down this way, I believe.
Can you yeah, move it to the left a little bit more so I'm trying to place it where Willow Drive is. I don't know if you
Willow
know.
Drive is to the east. Yeah, pan it to the, so it shows, yeah, they keep going. There, okay, there's Willow Drive.
Okay, there.
So yeah, this is definitely kind of out in the woods.
So you'll be accessing it from Agamenticus Road?
Correct.
And do you own the road that you're getting out to this property?
We do not own the road. We have the current landowner has an easement over the water district's road, which will be utilized to access the site.
So is it a written easement in the deeds?
Correct.
How wide is that?
I want to say it was 20 feet. It
And
was
how
relatively
wi-
narrow, but
And how wide is the road?
about that.
Yeah, that I had the same question that Manley does. Yeah, when you would make an application, that would need to be crystal clear that you got rights over the, Mr. Page has an easement over the water district driveway.
Correct.
But this goes beyond that, doesn't it?
So let me bring this one back up.
The road is 12 to 16 feet wide, Bill. Unimproved. It will need work.
Okay, so
So there's an easement all through here.
that page has.
That page has, exactly. And then once it gets to here, it's part of the parcel itself.
Okay.
Which this road is, the land and fee is owned by Mr. Page with the right of way to the property to the rear.
Okay, and is that a residence way down to the south?
It is.
Okay, is that Page's property as well?
It is not, no.
How
Okay,
many
so
residents on that road?
Just one.
just one, way back.
That belongs to Page, I believe, Bill.
I recall his daughter used to live back there. It
That's
might be
right.
where she lived. She might still live there. I don't know. Okay.
Do you have just curious, do you have an elevation map?
Not readily available. Any, let me
Is that-
see
is that-
here.
is
I
that-
can,
I mean, you're off the flank of Powder House Hill. Is that flat? Is the land flat where you're gonna put the panels?
relatively, it does pick, this is low down and through here on the right hand. If you're looking at the plan on the right hand side, it's all low through there, and then there's the wetland that everything kind of drains towards.
Yeah, so all those panels are obviously headed south. They're pointed south. I wasn't sure the lay of the land there, if they're fighting a hill or they're not fighting a hill.
Yeah, everything, yeah, it would be, these would definitely be stepped down. It's kind of the same scenario where they'll use the screwed in posts.
Yeah.
And then just kind of use the lay of the land as
So
it's shown, as it is today.
So the land itself is sort of half wooded, half not?
It's all wooded.
Okay.
So typically,
Will Boyle here, the area to the right of the road is a hill area. So the area to the left of the road as you're driving in is flat, relatively flat.
so
Hang on, so if I'm driving south on the driveway, what did you say?
So if you're driving on the driveway, you're leaving Agamenticus Road, driving onto the property. The area to the right is a hill area. The area to the left is somewhat flat. It's not
Although
completely
I
flat.
think your site is south of where the cursor is. There you go. That's the well house.
Correct.
I would.
so typically, we require a 50-foot easement. Is there a reason that doesn't apply in this case?
Mostly because it's an existing easement. Obviously, we can see if we can discuss this with the water district. That's definitely something we can talk about.
Well, what my
Go ahead.
question is there zoning wise, is it typically we require 50 foot, and it doesn't seem like you have that. So the question I'm asking, is there a reason as far as the zoning is concerned that it's not required?
Well, it's required for a subdivision or housing. We'd have to check and see what's required for a commercial development.
I don't know the answer to the question. That's why I'm asking. it.
Yeah, that we'll put that one on the table. Thank you.
Is any of the property line abutting Berwick Academy?
There's a small portion, I believe this is part of it. I don't know if this line continues across. But I believe, yes, I mean, I would have to say that it probably would be some of this outland out here that would be part of the academy.
Are you gonna own this property or are you gonna lease it?
It's gonna be a lease.
So Mr. Page will be owning it.
Correct.
And just so my bearings are correct, I believe this road, the entry road is right across from the cemetery, is that correct? Just so my bearings are correct?
I think
That is
that's
correct.
Yes, correct.
Okay, I was thinking initially it was closer to the transfer station, so it's really early on in the road. Okay, thank you.
So that's Powder House to the west.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah.
It passes Mel Kenny's house and Gorman's house, that road.
I got you.
And that road up over the hill will have to be improved in order to get emergency vehicles up over it. There's open culverts and a number of other items before you get to the building on the end of the road. It's good only to the only place that it's good is to the end of the where the water district has their station there.
Okay, yeah.
Now, on the other project, we required that there be a turnaround before your gates.
Okay. So meeting the town's road standard turnaround?
I don't know. That's another question I've got. It seems like this should meet the private road standard, but my point being that when someone drives out there, there'll be a place that they can turn around and go back out.
We will require, as I'm the road commissioner and town manager, sir, we will require at least the point that at your gate that there is a turnaround, because the road will have to be to a standard. It'll only be a driveway, so it's not it's got to be 12 or 16 feet wide, but we've got to be able to get access that. I'm assuming you'll have a Knox box on the gate in
Right.
case there's some issue up there, and our emergency services need to be able to turn a fire truck up there.
Okay.
How many, you probably opened with this, Jason, but how many acres of inside your fence?
Inside the fence is right around 18.
Hi, this is Kristen Crawford. I joined late. I apologize. I live at 52.5 Agamenicus, so I'm not, can you point again on the map to where you're talking?
So, Kristen, I'm assuming that you live in the
Yes, that's Kristen's house.
through the facility, correct?
Yeah, I hadn't heard of this before. I just had a friend let me know, so.
Yeah, we often, as something comes in as a sketch, if it goes past the sketch, we ask the applicant to identify all the abutters and notify them that the process has started. That's not the public hearing notification that the town does down the road. It's just let everybody know that this is being discussed in the neighborhood. So we would ask you to do that as part of any next step.
Definitely.
Huh.
So Kristen, we would be maintaining the existing 50, the fence line would be outside of the 50-foot right of way that you have through the property. So that it wouldn't hinder your access back to your house.
Okay. Would there be did I hear something about a gate, or there would not be a gate during that?
There would not be a gate. What we're doing is these are kind of two cells, if you will, that there's going to be a gate on each cell. So it would leave the roadway clear, free and clear.
And where is the water district building on this map right now? The pump station?
Right there.
Okay. Oh, wow. Okay.
There's, Perry made it clear that the road would need to be upgraded. Back on Agamenticus, I don't know who the property owner, what's entailed in encroaching into their two properties that it's going on. I don't know if they're part of this whole thing, or is that a big deal? I don't know. Just two more people that are going to be directly impacted by it. As far as expanding the road, opening the road up. Maybe it's not, maybe Perry has some
Well,
guidance on it.
I think the question first has to be answered, is 50-foot requirement in our ordinance. And they're gonna be getting that. And then if it is, then I think they'll have to negotiate with some people to.
Well, I don't think that, I'm not sure the driveway standard is 50-foot right away. I don't know. That needs to be determined.
A private drive does not require 50-foot right of way up
Right.
through. It requires that the owners have either an easement or access over that piece of ground. So there's no requirement in a driveway that's the town is never going to maintain to have a 50-foot right of way. It's
Right.
only a 50-foot right of way if we're going to take it over at a later point.
Right. But that needs to be determined as this thing goes forward, what actually is proposed and what is required. Huh. Any other comments or questions this time?
How much tax money do you think, Perry, that would bring to the town?
I have no idea at this point on how taxes on these type of things work. But I do have a question of the gentleman right up front, and that is, if I'm out golfing on the golf course, or I'm over on Route 4 looking across towards this area, this is the same area.
Fucking Hall scored.
What? Golf course? Who? Somebody asked something.
Go ahead.
Trying to see where this.
I
Okay,
think
so
someone's unmuted, that's all.
So if you're on Route 4 and look, you can look all the way across and almost see the Powder House Hill and that whole area up there. That's the same area that we were looking at building a bypass long before I became the town manager. And just wondering what the view is going to be. Short distance, you're not going to see anything. Maybe standing at Powder House, you're not going to see anything. But what are you going to see from the distance looking across the open fields of the golf course from Route 4 towards Agamenticus? I think you need to take a look at how that is going to, what that visual is going to be at some point.
Okay.
So what's the value of this project?
Will, do you want to handle that one?
Yeah, so if the whole 4.99 megawatt project is built, the value is somewhere between $6 and $8 million.
$6 and $8 million. So what's that computed to tax dollars, Perry?
Well, this is where the state of Maine steps in, and they've got their hands in regulating how much towns can tax on personal property tax. So there's going to be two taxes on these projects. There's the broad land value, and then there's a personal property tax. So I believe the state and the Public Utility Commission, they're still working through exactly what they're actually going to set the rates. And I think it's by the megawatt is how they're going to be setting the rates for the taxes. personal property taxes for these sites.
Yeah, as a tax collector, I don't know the answer to that question, but Will, I think you gave the right answer to the question. I think it's to be determined at this point. Actually, it's all going to be under personal property because the landowner will still be, if you're leasing the land from them, the landowner's still going to pay the land tax on bulk land.
It just seems like we ought to know if we're gonna put a moratorium. If we get a cash cow, I think that makes a difference as opposed if we're getting nothing and we get all of the responsibilities and stuff.
Well, we don't have a moratorium at the moment.
Yeah, let's stay off of that in this
Yeah,
discussion.
let's stay off of that, and I'll try to get some answers before your next meeting.
So let's
Share
just
it with
stick to
Bill.
let's stick to the topic at hand.
Right.
So what I've heard is you need to develop specifically the right-of-way requirements and the impacts along the easement and other users of that driveway. I hear that as a question for sure. There in the turnaround, the Knox box and all that, there's been a question about view shed and looking to examine from where this is would be visible from places around town. I think that's a suggestion that you might look at.
Okay.
Were there other specific suggestions from the board about what they ought to develop if they come back with a formal application? David, did you have any overviews on this at this point?
The only thing that I would suggest is it sounds like they're going to have gates on either side, giving access to them to the two sort of separate solar panels. So we'll want to see a detail of the turnarounds up in that neck of the woods, where the gates are located, if it's two gates or, we'll need the Knox box out there or two Knox boxes, depending. But apart from that, I mean, you guys, I was just going over my notes. Give me 2 seconds here. What I had included in your in the staff report is as we have had other solar farms in here come before the board before, what I ended up doing is I just, for your reference only, I included some of the conditions of approval
right
that have been used just to sort of get the juices flowing on there. Obviously, they'll need to get the bonding in place, that, as Perry mentioned before, that's going to be through the manager's office, and that is listed as sort of an item C with sort of some words, but I'd obviously put the wording in there that it had to be approved by the manager's office and or town council before that legal document is executed.
Yep.
I think I've got everything else. I think you mentioned it.
Okay. I just wanted to confirm, I mean, in the last year or so since pandemic, we've asked applicants as they make application to, I mentioned this a few minutes ago, to develop the abutters list and actually have you contact them to indicate that you're embarking on a planning board review process with the town of South Berwick. That allows people to check our website and be aware of it before it gets way along.
Yep, definitely will be when we make the formal submission.
Yeah, if you could coordinate that so that we have records of those, but that is it's not in our ordinance, but it's an ask that we have, and I think it's in everybody's interest to get input earlier than later.
How many acres total would this solar farm encompass?
The fenced-in area would be about 18 acres.
What kind of fence? Is it chain link?
Yes,
So I don't have to worry if my dog goes for a walk, he won't get lost in your rows of solar panels.
no, I wouldn't think so. We've got to come up with a detail. I know that the last solar farm had the fence raised up so that wildlife can go back and forth, which probably wouldn't be beneficial for your case if you're trying to keep your dog outside of the panels. But it's something that we can definitely look into.
So there's some of this, I believe there's not trees, but do you know how many acres you'd be cutting down of trees?
It would be right around the 18 acres.
Most of it is wooded, okay.
Most of it is wooded, if I
Okay.
recall, just looking through the aerials.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm trying to get a sense of exactly where it is. I think the first part there, the driveway bit, like right now, I pay to plow that part because the water district plows to where the dirt ends. And I think that first part is the beginning of where it's paved. It's hard to tell from this diagram based on where I am, but so I imagine then you guys would take over plowing that part anyway.
Yeah, let's leave those detailed questions for the full application. But I think you got this, there's right-of-way issues to the north and to the south. Betsy.
My question that's coming to my mind is just with, you're clearing that many trees. What is that going to do for the soil in terms of water retention, or is there going to be all of a sudden water flow issues? I don't know. I'd be curious in knowing more about what that type of clearing could do. And it's hard to know because I know that it's kind of like by a hill. I don't know if part of it is on the hill or not.
Yeah, I think I think that should be part of their characterization of the thing in terms of the slopes and descriptions of the drainage permits and stormwater permits and the behavior of the thing.
Right. Yeah, that'll be all taken into account. One option that we've been kind of toying around with right now is clearing the trees, but leaving the stumps in place so that it does provide stabilization for any slopes that are out there. But that is something that we'll need to discuss with the solar the providers or the panel providers.
Jason, where are you out of?
Biddeford.
Biddeford, okay, yeah, thank you. Okay. I think we've given you our general comments that you could take into account if you, as you prepare a preliminary application.
Definitely, we'll definitely, we'll be back soon. We've got the boundary surveys all wrapped up. We've got wetland delineation just about done. I haven't gotten the final picture yet, but hopefully that'll be coming in soon. And hopefully we'll be back in front of you in the next couple of months.
Yeah, thank you. The other project, they got into the IF&W issues right at the very beginning. I don't know if you want to launch those as you get going here, or maybe not part of.
We actually did get reviewed by IF&W. I actually meant to say this. And in their letter that they gave us, they said that based on their information of the area, they don't see any issues, any potential impacts of this project on any significant wildlife or threatened wildlife out here.
Well, that'll play out. Okay, good. Okay,
Thank you, everyone, for your time.
fair enough.
Thank you.
Okay, back to our agenda. The next project is also a new project having to do with replacing the tower up near the Water District Reservoir at the top of Powder House Hill, just around the corner from the last one. Is there anybody here to present that project tonight?
Mr. Chairman, yes, my name is David Walsh. I'm with SmartLink Group. We are a registered agent of New Singular Wireless, better known as AT&T.
Yep.
And,
Bill, how many more projects we got to review before 9?
We have this one, we have then we got to get back to the NBD Solar, and then the Bennett Lot Road project, and then we have findings of fact for the Meadow Woods East and West. So we got a few.
So it seems like we ought to be trying to put some type of time capsule in order to see everybody.
Well, let's keep moving then. Thank you.
well, I will try and be efficient too. I understand it's been a long night. First of all, I apologize. My camera is not cooperating with me, so I figure I will be sharing my screen for the most part. However, let me get the drawings up and I can give a brief overview. So our firm SmartLink was tasked by AT&T to find a solution for drop in reliable coverage and capacity in the Wadley Lane neighborhood. In our review of the area, the obvious choice for locating additional cell equipment was the existing tower at 110 Wadley Lane, the Water District property. Shortly after exploring that option, it became clear that our engineers could see no way of utilizing the existing structure. So we proposed to the Water District to replace the structure with a kind of beefier one that could handle the loading that's already there, as well as the additional load of AT&T's equipment and future co-locators. That's where we are today. The proposed structure is a 130-foot tall self-support tower, similar construction to what's existing, stronger. And I'd also like to note that the current height is 101 feet on the existing tower. So there's a slight extension here to accommodate AT&T's equipment, as well as placing the town's OmniWIPs at the top. So they will get slightly more elevation out of the build. Part of what's driving the need for this site is not only the consumer side of AT&T's business, but you may be aware, but AT&T was awarded a federal contract to build out the FirstNet network, which is a dedicated first responder only wireless network that allows fire, police, EMS, and public utilities, conveniently such as the water department, to get priority access to that wavelength. Regular folks like myself cannot get on that network. You need a special SIM card. To make that work, we need coast to coast consistent coverage so that departments can coordinate, cooperate, and work together to help us out when we need it most. So that is a big part of what's driving this particular project. The location of the tower. So if we look at the drawings here, the existing structure is here. We're moving about 30 feet away to make room for the foundation and not impact the water tanks that are already up there. There's a lot of information on sheet A1. It's very dense. I acknowledge that. So what I'll do.
Let me ask a question. The existing tower, that's the Water District's tower, right?
Correct, it is.
So you're not up here yet at all?
We are not, no. It's actually not structurally possible to install on that.
I understand that, but I think this board dealt with the permitting of that existing tower some years ago because we had to deal with a height restriction. And otherwise, it was just up there at the water tank. So okay, so you're next to that, and you would be replacing their functions and adding your functions.
That's correct, yes. Well, so the way that the build would go is we would erect the new structure, migrate the town's equipment over utilizing two-way communications, their preferred vendor, and then also install AT&T's equipment on the new structure and then decommission the old tower.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
As towers go, the height of this one, is this a regular height, or can you go higher, or how does that work?
What we're showing on our plans is a 130-foot tower. Just for reference, the existing one is 101 feet. They can be built to, you can throw enough money at anything and design whatever you need, I suppose. But in this case, AT&T is happy with the coverage that would be produced at their tower.
Yeah, well, you're at the top of the hill to start with.
Yes, correct.
So I guess my question is, seems like you got the best spot in town, and so I'm concerned about not only AT&T, but other vendors being able to lease spots on that from you. Are you going to provide that for them?
Well, the tower is going to be designed not only with enough capacity for AT&T, the existing town loading, but additional carriers to install as well. AT&T is not ultimately going to own the structure once it's complete. It will be up to the water district to market that to their desire. But we are building the tower with that in mind, and it does have the ability to install more carriers down the line.
And so what is the optimal height, the biggest that you could install if you had a mind to?
That's a tough question to answer. So the height that AT&T requires is really driven by their RF network engineers. And whatever problem or lack in coverage or capacity that AT&T is trying to solve is not necessarily the same as the other carriers. We're all using different frequencies, different technologies. I can't really speak to other carriers' needs in South Berwick, frankly. I don't have that information. All I can really say is AT&T has sufficient coverage at
I'm not asking the question about what AT&T needs. What I'm asking, what's the normal? Do they go to 160, 200 feet, or 130? Is that pretty much the maximum, or I'm more concerned about the whole town of South Berwick, that we receive real good coverage for everybody involved here.
Sure. Okay. I'm sorry. I misunderstood. Yeah. Again, it's situation specific, for lack of a better term. So I have built towers anywhere from 80 feet up to 200 feet. Depends on the situation. Again, we have good elevation here. Height. It also, frankly, it's something I've learned in this job. It's possible to be too high. Washes out the coverage too much. So again, in this case, the other barrier is a tower up to 199 feet does not require any lighting from the FAA. Once you cross that 200-foot mark, there needs to be lights, which I don't believe this is a community that would benefit from a red strobe. So that would be one barrier, but again, given the foundation, soil conditions, the foundation that's been designed, the height that is required not only of the town and AT&T, but in the future. I can't speak to future co-locators, but
so there's no beacon or light at the top of this thing, right?
No, sir. It will not be lit.
Okay.
So how many different cell services would this accommodate?
AT&T and 3 others and the town. That's what we're designing for.
I see. And so AT&T is looking to get the top, and there's be 3 others underneath that.
There would be enough capacity for 3 others to mount to the tower. Yes, the foundation and structure are going to be designed for that. Again, I can't speak to future plans. I just want to make that clear because I don't want to. I want to get phone calls tomorrow, but it will be feasible. It'll be possible to install 3 others if they choose to come.
Okay.
And who would set the price? Would be the water district?
Yes, that would not come through our firm. No.
And who would be maintaining it?
So the way that our lease was struck AT&T will be funding the construction of the site. Once it's complete, everyone's installed and tested, ownership will be transferred to the water district.
But who will be maintaining it?
The water district would then be responsible.
Maintaining the tower itself.
Correct. They are for very low maintenance once they're erected. And then future co-locators, so say another one of these carriers comes along, would be going through the same process, not only through permitting, but through the engineering phase, running a structural, ensuring the condition of the tower, and making any upgrades that ultimately will come from any future co-locators that need work done to the tower, or something unforeseen happens and it needs an upgrade.
So
It would be on them.
what I think would be a good thing, Bill, is to have our town planner look at what are the needs of the complete town and,
I think that's beyond the scope of this, Manley.
okay,
That's up to the water district and that's beyond our capabilities and the scope of what we're gonna do. That'd be my opinion.
Manley, the town and the water district have been talking with AT&T. I've been meeting with them since 2019, discussing this. The primary goal is to increase our ability for that communication tool that for the fire department and the police. I was part of the agreement, the first agreement to put that present tower up 11 years ago. And it sufficed, but AT&T coverage, for instance, really stinks in South Berwick right now. If you've got an AT&T phone, it doesn't work in half the places. You're inside.
I agree.
So I see this along with the water district seeing this as an opportunity. We also have outbuildings that may need to be updated that create for the generator and other things that are associated with this tower for both, not only for ourselves, but for Berwick and others who bounce off of this tower and off of our equipment. But that's beyond the scope of what really we ought to be talking about now.
Well, I think you're right. It's a good thing and I'm in full support of it. I just want to get the biggest bang for a buck.
So, David, you've outlined the thing. This is a sketch plan submission tonight. And it would be followed by a formal application. Are there any other general, I mean, it sounds like it's a replacement of a tower with different height. We need to look at the height. I can't
Sorry,
believe.
you're cutting in and out. There's
Oh, wow.
something that's making a pulsing noise. Wait,
Don't know about
wait,
that.
it just stopped.
Okay.
I'm sorry, say again, Bill.
Can't believe it's been 11 years since that other project was done. But it's basically a replacement of that. We need to look at, we did something about the maximum height in those days, and we have to make sure that this 135 meets whatever the existing modified height restriction was. But otherwise, it's a.
Are there support wires that come off of it? Looking at the pictures, it didn't show any. I just wasn't sure if there were support wires and if they would come down, how that works as far as property wise. If all of them would come down to the property or would they be impacting other people's?
No, it's a great question. So this tower does not require guy wires, support wires. It's a self-standing structure.
Okay.
The comment I made to the previous project was that sketch plan. If you're going to go ahead and put in an application, we ask that you identify the abutters and let them know that you're entering the process.
Of course.
Yeah. And, any other guidance that we want to provide David and SmartLink tonight? David Galbraith?
No, I'm sorry. Yeah, no, I think right now, aware of what needs to be brought in, and if they have any questions, they can make contact with the town, and we'll see if we can't get them an answer. And I'll look into the height issue.
Yeah, I remember we adjusted it, we had to adjust it at that time, and I don't know, I can't remember what we adjusted it to, but hopefully it encompasses this.
It seems to me that a red light on top of it wouldn't be a bad thing, as long as it's not hurting the people around it, but I don't.
My reaction is that would be a huge public issue. And if it's not required, it's not required. I think there'd be a large reaction negatively against that in the middle of town. That's my own personal thought. Okay, you all set?
I am, yeah, if there's no other questions, thank you for the time, I appreciate it, and we will reach out to generate that abutters list and look into that past decision and make sure we comply.
All right, thanks, David.
Thank you very much, have a great night.
Okay, so we'll move on to old business. First, we got 3 items of old business to deal with, and the first item is the MBD solar project, which we had a hearing on earlier today. The question is, do we, our options are to act on it, to ask for more information, to act on it with conditions. What's the, David, the procedures at this point would include what?
Well, from the earlier, well, for the public hearing, there was a couple of questions that needed to be answered on here. I want to get to my notes.
Yeah.
Sorry. There was going to be meetings with the 2 abutting property owners on there. They need to get the plan or the decommissioning plan in for Perry's review. So it's a matter of, I mean, those type of, well, the agreement would need to be signed before any earth moving would take place. So right now you could table the project and wait until there's additional information in, or you could adopt it with conditions of approval.
I think that a key issue is the wetlands mitigation. And I'd be hesitant to move it ahead without that brick being in the wall. And I suggest that, so there was that one. I think that is going to be a process. It's not going to be a quick meeting realistically. So from my point of view, everything looks favorable, but there was the offset needs to be established that meets the IF&W requirements and can be accomplished in a legal framework. That would be the biggest thing that I see. And then there was the discussions with the immediate abutters regarding buffers and plantings and that kind of thing. But those that could be, if it was just that, we could do that as a condition. And I think the framework for the financial assurance needs to be put together. That could also be a condition, but at this point, we might as well do them all. And my thought is that we leave it there and leave those tasks for the applicant to deal with. That's my thought. Betsy?
I'd like to see the letters from the real estate agents about the property values for abutters. Just be curious if there are any examples of houses that have sold in the state of Maine beside solar farms.
Okay.
I'm in agreement with you, Bill. When they get all the ducks in a row, I think we should table it. Then when they get all the ducks in a row, come back, and then we can look at it at that time.
Right.
I'm in favor of what they're doing 100%, but there's some issues that still need to be addressed.
Yeah, I think the Yes, I agree. The mitigation, that deal has to be struck, and that's gonna take some doing. I think it can be struck, but it's not you gotta deal with some institutions here to get that taken care of.
That can be done prior to your next meeting, Bill.
Fine. If that can be done, that's great. But let's do it. So, all right. All right, so let's take action on this. Can someone want to make a motion to table it until some of these issues are further developed?
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Manley,
I'll second that.
second by Jeff. Any further discussion? All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I see them all. Okay. Thank you. All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. We'll get that squared away and back to you. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, the next one is the Bennett Lot subdivision, Providential LLC 5-lot subdivision, MSP 20-009. There's Brian Nielsen. He's back. He waited all night. Last time we found it, the concept for the cluster, and gave them a go-ahead to develop that. Brian, why don't you tell us what you've done with your latest submittal?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll introduce myself again. So Brian Nielsen from Attar Engineering, here representing Providential Realty and their project at Bennett Lot Road. So may I share my screen?
Yep.
All right. Let's see. Go to plans here. So we're proposing, for those who haven't seen it before, we're proposing a 5-lot cluster subdivision primarily in the R5, or the Agamenicus Resource District. So the sole entrance will come off Bennett Lot Road, and there will be 5 lots off of the main street. It'll just be a cul-de-sac, no through road as we showed in the original conventional design. So some of the concerns that have been brought up in the past are primarily with stormwater runoff. So as we discussed, instead of detention ponds, each of the stormwater structures between the homes and the wetlands and the edge of the property line will be filter ponds or bioretention cells. The remainder will be kind of grabbed in the roadside swales, and we'll have some additional protection along the edge of the wetlands. So other than that, each lot will have its own private drilled well and private septic. And I believe that is the kind of the gist of the project. I'm happy to answer any questions, hoping to get preliminary plan completeness this evening.
What's required for that? When do we get into the stormwater analysis and stormwater study and that kind of thing?
I can let David correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe a stormwater layout or a stormwater plan is necessary for preliminary, but a full stormwater report isn't required until afterwards.
So what do you have in that regard at this stage?
So at this stage, we have the stormwater design laid out. We've got grading, we've got ponds sized appropriately for the amount of area that would be going towards them, but we don't have our full, HydroCAD report that we would for the final phase.
There's those last couple of sheets, are they new this time?
They are, yeah. We do have our stormwater. We have our stormwater subcatchments laid out with reaches and ponds located.
So, have you gone through a HydroCAD type sizing?
We've a preliminary one, just not a final report that we'd be comfortable getting to the board until we reached a final design.
Okay. David, is that? does that comport with your understanding? Is that, can we wait on that until the final process? Or do you normally do that at the preliminary?
You would do that before you would do determining the application complete.
Brian, if I may, Bill, Brian, did you have a conversation with Jay Stevens today?
I did.
And is that issue resolved?
It is. Not on these plans, but are you speaking to the road entrance?
To the road entrance and the distance of the culvert and the width of the road or the right of way?
That's right. So
what are we talking about here?
Well, we're talking about the entrance area to the road is it's quite a fill. And Jay Stevens and Jay Redemarker and I met together about it today, looking to make sure that we could say safely that we felt that this is all going to work correctly.
Hang on, you're way ahead of me, Perry. Is Jay Stevens working for the town now?
Jay Stevens is our PE that looks after my business when it comes to roads to make sure that they're built correctly.
Okay, but that's all good. But we as part of the planning board process, we need to have a full drainage analysis. And to jump ahead to one structure is maybe not.
We only were looking at the only thing we're looking at is the road, and there was an issue at the entrance area of the road with the fact that it would be that we couldn't that we would have to have an extended piece there. So you're looking at the whole project. I'm only looking at the road.
Fine.
Is that okay? Or if it isn't, tell me so, and I'll stop.
Well, no, I just don't understand the context that we're having this discussion in.
Okay, so Brian, why don't you walk them through what the issue was and how it's going to be resolved?
Sure. So if I may, Mr. Chair, so I had a conversation with Perry as the road commissioner and public works director currently, because part of the preliminary completeness process is that they sign off on erosion and sedimentation control plans. So that's where that came from. And while Jay Stevens was reviewing this, he noted that the grading required to do the road entrance would force us to exceed the limits of our 50-foot right of way. So in order to do that, we're going to have to adjust the design at the entrance to steeper grade with armor and potentially guardrails in order to accommodate.
Okay.
That's that.
And
as far as drainage goes, like I said, we've got the stormwater drainage laid out in the stormwater plans. We just don't have our full hydrocarbon report. You know, we have subcatchments, ponds, time of concentration, all preliminary.
Right.
So Bill, can I weigh in at all?
Sure.
Sure. So I'm no engineer, but it seems to me that we need to nail this down a little bit more before we ask them to spend more money. If in fact we go to the preliminary and then we looking for a public hearing?
Well, we're trying to figure out what the issues are here.
Right. I guess what I'm saying is I'd like to see us give a little bit more concrete to the developer what we're expecting. I would hate to think that they would have to spend a lot of money doing stormwater drainage, only have to do it again because this has been quite a controversial project and I don't want to.
Yeah, so we started David Galbraith. So is it required that the stormwater, I haven't looked at the regs this afternoon, is it required that the stormwater plan be developed at preliminary approval, or is that, can we do preliminary approval and have that follow?
I think you have preliminary plan for the preliminary review, and then to get to when you're in final plan review, you would get your full-blown
Right, okay. That's
plan
right.
before you do then you can determine the application to complete, and not that, you can't ask further questions after that once you're at public hearing or whatever.
So we would, when does the plan get to be determined complete? That's not until the rest of the work is done, right?
Correct.
Can I, if I may, Mr.
Completed.
Chair, I have the regulations up, so if we may just go through that.
Sure.
So it's under submissions, 121-32, section O, provisions for collecting and discharging storm drainage in the form of a drainage or stormwater management plan, which we're showing, including preliminary designs of any bridges or culverts which may be required, which we have. All such stormwater management plans may be prepared by a professional engineer licensed state of Maine. These are all stamped by Ken Wood, my boss from Matter Engineering. And then it kind of goes on for any stormwater infrastructure outside the road right of way that receives runoff from a town accepted road. It talks about easements, town inspection, maintenance, repair, and we will be required to notify you if we trigger anything from the Chapter 500 stormwater management law, which I do not believe that we do.
Well, hang on, don't, we don't get a stormwater management plan that the town reviews?
I mean, we'll certainly provide one because we always do. I just don't believe that it's required at this preliminary stage.
Yeah, it would be, maybe not, but it would be required before we go to public hearing and all that kind of stuff, wouldn't it? Yes.
I don't, well, it was my understanding that if you can schedule the public hearing as you have preliminary completeness, and as I read through this, it doesn't appear that a full HydroCAD report specifically is required. It simply says provisions for collecting and discharging storm drainage.
But you can't do that without the calculations. You got, you're sure, I don't buy that.
So it, from my point of view, it seems like that after the public hearing would be when you want to do the full blown thing, because I'm sure that all the neighbors are gonna weigh in up there, and we don't want to put ourselves in a position saying, well, we already did it, so we don't want to redo it.
Right, right.
That was my understanding. I mean, I understand what you mean, Mr. Chair, about having the more specific calculations. And of course, you know, as a PE that you can't finalize any of those sizings without, going through a full model.
Well, you can't size them. You can
preliminary, preliminary designs and preliminary sizings based off of the information we have now are
Okay.
well within a range.
Okay, that's fine. And why is it that this entrance culvert came up now? What was observed that it didn't work?
So I had a brief conversation with Jay because he was just looking at the plans today, and he was kind enough to call me right away. So there's his comment that we would need to adjust the grading at this entrance because you kind of see you're starting to touch on the very edges of the right of way with the grading lines. So of course you would go over a slight bit. So we're looking to tighten that up slightly so we can keep things within the right of way. Alternatively, we could look to adjust the road entrance and perhaps widen the right of way, since the rest of the property to the right, there's a significant amount of it that is owned. But in order to reduce wetland impacts, I think the best way.
Well, you could, you could also put, you also put concrete structure, precast concrete structure that doesn't require slope grading.
Correct.
That'd be the most efficient thing you could do.
I think you're right, as far as wetland impacts, that's for sure.
Jason, my conversation after he talked to Brian was that that at this point we're satisfied that a satisfactory plan will be developed to take care of the sloping issues. The guardrails.
This is off point, but I didn't know Jay Stevens was our PE now. Is he working for the town? Is he working for Civil Consultants? What's he doing?
He's working for the town.
Okay.
Anything that we need extra help with, he's working with us.
I was unaware of that. That's good. Okay. The other thing, I had two things. One was the drainage, and this is this is a project where drainage is going to be everything. And some months ago, we talked about when the drainage plan is put together, I was going to support a third-party review of it. That's done in almost every other town that I've ever dealt with, and it's not done very often here. Whether that's Jay or whether that's an independent consultant, I don't care. But I think there needs to be a detailed review of it because there's been so much attention put on it. And the other thing I was brought to the meeting is that on all these projects, we've had IF and W do their thing. And when do you expect to bring them in, and Brian?
Right after this, immediately, because as you said, just like we dealt with on, and we have been in contact with Corey Stearns and Derek Yorks on this project. We've been having a back and forth, but as far as convincing Mr. Yorks to come all the way down from Bangor to do a site visit takes time. So, but yeah, we would be looking to coordinate anything that they need immediately following preliminary completeness.
Yeah, because we've seen other projects very recently do a very, very detailed consideration of the IF and W input. And,
Yes, we had, sorry, Mr. Chair.
And this site with all its wetlands and resources is going to have, that has to be nailed down. We can't have any question on that.
100% agree, especially after mixed subdivision that we worked on last year that derailed the entire project. So we are not looking to mistime that again.
So if you're suggesting that we put IF and W and the detailed drainage documentation, you get preliminary and then you proceed with those things.
Correct.
David, in your memo, there was also the issue of the road length waiver and when we have to deal with that. And I think you concluded that we have to deal with that before the rest of the determinations.
Yeah, well, the reason I made sure that I was reminding everyone of that is the board agreed to go with the cluster design, but a waiver was never voted on.
Right.
And so they've sort of gone hand in hand, but no official waiver has been approved by the board this time. I think we'd need the exact length of where that roadway length is before you could actually do that. Perhaps, let's see, Brian's already on it.
Yeah, it would be 1,250 feet, just shy.
Is that to the far end of the cul-de-sac? I can't remember how that's measured.
It actually wraps all the way around the cul-de-sac. So
Okay, so the whole linear length of thing.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was, if the board is still comfortable moving forward with the cluster design, at some point you need to make that waiver or discuss that waiver.
Yeah.
And my thought was, if they're moving ahead with the cluster design as sort of part of this preliminary approval, do the waiver at this time rather than getting all the way to the end and going, oh, we're not going to give you the waiver.
We can't let it proceed without having that established and confirmed. So the request is made, and it sounds like we can do it to determine completeness, determine the waiver for the cul-de-sac, and in doing so, the preliminary approval, which allows them to go forward to do all the other things that we want them to do.
I have a question before moving forward on that.
Sure.
Just in regards to the conversations that you guys have had about the road.
Sure.
It sounds like you guys have just been mentioning conversations. I'm assuming that the conversations probably were brought up with development of the road that exists there now, that wasn't there before.
In the past, Jeff, we had John looked at every print. John got a copy of everything, and we approved the road as structure as such in the past, and he did as a PE, civil engineer. That's the reason that I've employed Jay to do this second look preliminarily. And if it needs more, including stormwater, we'll be glad to assist with that, unless it's a project that's being run by civil consultants. I'm
Okay.
using them for the TIF project, a number of projects.
Okay, all right.
Cool. And I think what my question was is, at the beginning, when we first were talking about this was just a path, but now there is an actual, there's been work done out there. I wasn't sure if that's what prompted the questions about the cul-de-sac, and where you're talking about the guide rails potentially, does that affect the width of the road and how it will impact the abutters?
Those are all, the problem is between preliminary and there's a bunch of stuff that gets worked out between preliminary and final design. And it all can be worked out, but we got the cart before the horse a little bit. Jay
Okay,
Stevens.
sorry about that.
No, that's okay. Jay Stevens took a preliminary look to be helpful, and he's identified an issue. He's passed that along to the applicant. That's fine. It's by no means a done deal. So.
Good. I just figured I was just.
No, that's good.
wondering.
That's great. That's great. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
If I may?
Oh, yes, Pat. Trying to figure out.
In response to Jeff Minahan's comment, there has been no work done out there since we've owned the property.
Yeah.
Okay. I just don't know where that came from.
Yeah, and I'll just say that I've been out past there numerous times. I've seen it's changed. So that's the only reason I made the comment.
There has been no work done on that property since we've owned it. Okay.
Yeah. Thanks for that.
Other than test pits and the associated work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to make a motion that I don't know what comes first, the length of the road, the waiver, or the completeness for a preliminary.
They could be done. They could be done together.
I'd like to make a motion on both then.
Okay. All the issues that everybody's interested in get worked on once we get past this. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Moved by Manley, seconded by Betsy. Any further discussion? Okay, I'll call the roll. Manley,
I'm in favor of that.
Betsy,
Aye.
Hershey,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. Okay. So this allows these guys to do the work, and we'll get down to brass tacks on all the rest of these issues here. And we jumped to, by the nature of the project, we've had to run down some pathways and back, but this, from my point of view, this allows us to give earnest, careful review to these, all of the various pieces here that require it, and we can now do that for real.
Can we set up a public hearing?
I would.
That would be our preference.
I think we're better off get the skunk out on the table, whatever they want, people want. We can go ahead and start addressing the issues.
Manley, I never heard that term. That's a good one.
I'm stealing that one.
Okay, so there's a do you make that a motion?
Yes, I make a motion, we set up a public hearing so we can see what all the issues are, then the applicant can start working on them over the next month or so.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? We can do this by,
In further discussion, so we will be notifying everybody, right, that that's going to happen.
if we schedule the public hearing tonight, yes, that gets a formal notification.
That's great.
Okay, I can do this by a show of hands. All in favor of the hearing, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Thank you. Okay, I think we're done for tonight.
Are we, so is the waiver? on
Yeah,
the
that was,
road length
we had a
that is
combined
approved?
motion. We,
All right.
the waiver and the completeness and the preliminary was all one motion.
That's what I thought. Just want to make sure. Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah.
Have a great night, everyone.
Thank you, Brian.
Was someone else supposed to hear?
We got one last thing.
Let's do it quick.
And poor Dana Libby's had to listen to us for 2 hours, poor guy. That's the Meadow Woods East and West subdivision. We have findings of fact. We approved it last time, and David, where's David? There's David. He prepared the conditions of approval and findings of fact, which we need to act on tonight. You pull them up, David?
Oh, sure.
You can pull up the draft.
Hold on, I'm trying to see which one it is. Sorry, I've been trying to close out all the ones as we've gone. Meadowwoods, is this a finding of fact or is this one here? Okay, are you seeing it? It says findings of fact.
There it is. Yep, thank you.
Okay. One of the last times that the board looked at the findings of fact, we went through condition by condition to see if the application had met those standards. The way I set it up then and the way that I set it up now is I marked everything as the conditions has been met, and I assumed that there were going to be 5 members here tonight and that people voted 5-0-0. If, as we did last time, if you want to go through point by point and vote on them as they come, and then if there are any changes to the actual specific conditions of approval, you can direct me to make whichever modifications you need on that. Is that the way you'd like to begin, or?
I think let's have this a consensus, but let's just go through these, and if the consensus remains at the end, we can vote them all up at once.
Yeah, and the last time the board said if there was anything, for example, the vehicle circulation, they would ask for number 2 to be discussed.
Okay.
So we approve
okay.
everything. Okay.
That's fine, David. So if anyone has a particular, there's 19 findings of fact, if I recall, right?
Correct.
And just flip down through them slowly, and if anyone wants to have questions on or individual vote on one of these, we can do it.
Okay, so the first is access to the site being safe and adequate. I don't know if anyone wants to discuss that one, or if you want.
No, I think that's good.
Raw driveways, yeah.
Okay, internal vehicle circulation.
There is no internal vehicle circulation.
Correct. Pedestrian circulation.
None.
There is none of that. Preservation of landscaping. The one main issue that we had, if you recall, was the 50-foot no-cut buffer with the exception of the driveway locations. The applicant has placed that back. I think that was 2 meetings ago or so.
That's correct.
And there's also the protected areas on the plan. Screening, again, that was the keeping the screening I put. Oh, the outdoor areas we talked about, waste recycling is going to be done on a lot by lot basis like you would in the normal 6 lot subdivision. The buildings to the compared to the environment, the building setbacks and lot areas and buildable areas were actually determined using all of the items that were gleaned from the inland fisheries and wildlife. Lighting, they're not proposing any site lighting other than what might be associated with a typical single family house.
Yep.
There was going to be no signage on this property.
That was a question, actually, wasn't it? Yeah.
And the water supply, they were going to be served by private wells. Same with sewage. The septic systems were originally in the no-cut areas along the frontage. Those were all relocated back in the properties, as you recall, so they could keep that. utilities. They were going to get their power and cable and what have you over the existing overhead power lines. And we determined, or that we discussed water quality in the area, again, protecting the environment, the wetlands, the species habitat, noise. Number 14 is basically the same as you'd find in any other 6-family subdivision, or assume the same. The single-family house lots would act like any other, and so dust, fumes, vapor gases, and odors didn't really come into play. Waste disposal, they will be the individual refuse and recycling containers by each household. Stormwater runout, the development is treating and retaining stormwater on site. Erosion control, they're going to use best management practices until all before construction and through construction until the vegetation is established. And wildlife habitat, we have also addressed through the IF&W process. So I guess if the board wants, they could vote on all of those at one time, or pull out specific items to discuss in greater detail.
David, can I just ask one quick question?
Sure.
I'm mostly concerned about, and I know there's been this huge effort the plans are beautiful in terms of worrying about turtles and snakes and everything else, but how does it actually get memorialized and enforced that those things remain in place?
The conditions of approval are have to be listed on the actual final recorded plans. The way that we have reviewed this application thus far has been to look at, they had the same setbacks from not only in the same zoning district, but they also had setbacks from the various species that were identified and the cutting areas. So that the conditions of approval will have those on it. And the town will have that. So it'll be recorded with the deed. So if anyone ever comes in to look at the subdivision plan, will be on that for the code enforcement officer to review also.
But, okay.
Yeah,
All right, but it's on the deed, is what you're saying.
It will be on the recording, the signed documents that will get recorded.
Dana has a comment. Dana?
Yeah, the note 24 we have on there, all of the fish and wildlife restrictions,
Right.
those all will be reiterated in the deed as well.
Okay. Dana, it's not that I don't trust you or people in general. I just, the lots get sold, somebody gets a house and decides, I want to put in a gazebo back there and decides to cut right into, an endangered species habitat. And I just don't understand how we really keep track of stuff like that.
Yeah, in that note 24, Fish and Wildlife and DEP will have jurisdiction over those buffer areas.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, no, I've seen a lot of site plans, and these are particularly detailed in that respect. I thought
They are. They are. Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to go ahead and approve it then.
We'll limit that to the findings of, let's do the findings of fact.
Okay.
The findings of fact. A second?
I'll second.
Okay, a second by Hershey. All those in favor accepting these findings of fact as all 19 together, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Thank you. Okay, then go through the conditions of approval then, Dave?
Yeah, hold on one second. Hershey, you seconded that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
It's the only way to get my name in the minutes, David.
I've been putting everything in the reports too, so. All right, the conditions of approval. The first 4 are also being shared with you currently. Do you want me to read them out to the board, or?
I think we can read them.
Okay.
I read them before the meeting.
Oh, right, there we go. I can even make
I'm
them
all
big.
set with them.
Okay, and was there any of the conditions that you wanted to go into any greater detail, changes?
I'm good with it.
I'm good.
I'm good.
I'll hear a motion to accept the conditions of approval.
I motion to accept the conditions of approval.
Second,
Moved by Hershey, seconded by Betsy.
Thank you for your support, Betsy.
Show of hands, I'll count to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, good. Thank you.
Quick question.
Then if I guess I can, I got a copy. I need to sign this and send it back to David and Amy, right?
To Amy, but
Amy, okay, yeah.
Yep.
Very good. Then are we all
So-
set on this one then?
Does that mean it's approved?
Yes.
yeah, the only thing that will still need to be done is once we have once the applicant brings in the final plans, have all the conditions and what have you on there, it'll get signed by Bill, and then it can be recorded. Then the applicant just brings us back a copy for the permanent files.
Right. Fantastic.
I'd like to make a motion, we adjourn.
We got a couple of discussional things quickly before then.
I would like to thank everybody for their time and have a great night.
Yeah, thank you, Dana.
Thanks, Dana.
We've run out of time. We're on, I guess, it's been 2.5 hours now. I would like to suggest that at our next meeting, we reserve the first 45 minutes or an hour to deal with the marijuana ordinances, get that out of the way first, and see if we can get to recommendations of the council next time. And that'll give David a little more time. He wasn't able to get to some of the dimensional evaluation. So if the board concurs, we'll rearrange the agenda so that the other business doesn't start till 7:30, say.
I'm good with that.
Let's get that work done, because I'm a little worried it gets to be the end of the nights and we're all bleary eyed and can't think well on those issues. We did a good job last time, but I think it's too late to pick them up now. And let's rearrange our agenda for the next meeting. If everybody's
Got it.
concerned with that, that's good.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
The other thing, just looking ahead here, we, I believe, Amy checked out who's who. We have 2 members whose terms are up in July, and I personally am encouraging them both to re-up. Those are Hershey and Manley.
I'm good with it if everybody wants me.
Yep. And Hershey, yours, and okay, good. So it's been established that you have to let Barbara at the town offices know, and you have to go and do your oath of office business, but you're good. So we'll keep our quorum stays intact. That's great.
Doesn't the select people have to vote on that?
Unless you're getting thrown off.
Yes, they do. The town council will put that on the agenda for that particular meeting at that
Right,
time.
okay.
But now
Yeah.
that we have the names, I'll make sure it gets on.
Yeah, because in general, they roll them over unless they're really mad at you, but.
And should be on the June 22nd. Because their date's June 1st.
Okay.
I mean, July 1st. So,
That's when
Very-
we'll put it in, Amy.
okie dokie.
Great, make sure we don't miss a quorum opportunity here. Okay, that's all I had. Thank you, everybody, for hanging in there. This was a long night, but we got a lot of work done. I appreciate it.
Well done, Bill. Good meeting.
Thank you, everybody.
We'll see you next time around.
No, you gotta make the motion again, Manley.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll second it.
Make a motion, we don't use Robert's rules anymore.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Hershey, I'll add you into the meeting this time, okay?
Oh, thank you, Amy. I just want my name up in lights.
I think you have 7 or 8 lines, by the way. I just
Do
wanted
I
to let
really?
you know.
Do
I
I really?
counted 'em.
Okay, all right, okay, good. I was trying to be more restrained tonight. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. All right, good night, everyone.
Bye, guys. Bye.